This is another unplanned, unscheduled live chat. It's lunchtime and I'm taking a coffee break. So I thought I'd pop down here. Yesterday, when we did the live chat, the quality of the video was terrible, but I think I have a solution. So if you're watching this right now, the quality should be improved. And if it is, let me know. It got 2 thumbs down on yesterday's live chat, and I think that's because, I hope it's because the quality was crap. So now we're live chatting and we'll see who pops in. If you have a question about honeybees, backyard beekeeping, beginner beekeeping related, then let's talk about that. I can answer your questions right now. So right now I have 5 L4H ranch and bees. It says it's good. Does that mean the video quality is good? Because they did a magic fix that I hope is working. So if it's streaming fast, it should be coming in at thank you. So it says yes. If I've resolved that issue, that's great. So we'll use about half hour of my lunchtime today and see if anybody's got some bee questions. Snow hit us. Maloney Cruz, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. Matthew Sibley, quality is good, sound is good. Yes. By the way, this is different from my normal FAQ videos, for example. I'm using a Logitech 10. I think it's my connection. It just cut out for no reason there. We'll struggle through it and see what's going on. J-Mom says, I just used my oxalic acid vaporizer for the first time on my hives, had a 26 mite drop over 24 hours afterward, wondering if there is a temperature range for when and when not to use oxalic acid. Yes, there is. Generally, though, the temperature range, oxalic acid is most effective around 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know why, because the oxalis settling on the surfaces inside the hive should work no matter what the range is, but if it's too cold, the cluster of bees will be too tight and the oxalis won't get to them because they're going to vent it and move it all around. But also your mite drop will continue beyond the 24 hours. So throughout the next week, you should see an increased mite drop if you've got some kind of insert or tray that you can pull mites on the bottom. Also, the second treatment, about 7 days after the first, you should see the biggest mite drop. And then the third treatment, in my experience, generally yields much less. But as far as the temperature range for oxalic acid vaporization, sublimation. If you don't know the difference, sublimation, for example, is when you have a material like oxalic acid that's in solid crystals that goes directly to the vapor form without the liquid form. Water, for example, if you put an ice cube in there, it would go to a liquid state, then to the vapor state. Sublimation, oxalic acid goes directly to vapor from a solid, which really is a sublimation, and it works for a broad range. Look at my video on what the bees do when they're being treated with oxalic acid vapor, and you might find that very interesting. So if it's too cold and they're clustered, I wouldn't use it. Super hot, of course. You also want to do it when most of your bees are in the hive. So right at sunset, I found when the wind conditions are the lowest, is also a very good time to do that. So, Rusty Sullivan lost it as well. Just lost you too. Uh-oh. Is it working here? Hung up for 30 seconds. That's possible. I think I'm back now, though. Rusty has it back. Jeremy Adams, hello from Iowa. Hello right back at you, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us. And I have a temp probe in one of my hives. It was minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, and the hive temp was 60 southeast South Dakota. South Dakota, North Dakota, this is a terrible area when it comes to temperatures. But remember, they're only heating the cluster. The vacant space in your colony around the cluster, out to the edges, will only have a marginal temperature change. They're heating themselves and, of course, inward. In fact, themselves are going into a state of torpor, so they will be consuming less energy, less resources. Hello from Greece. Good to see you. All the way across the Mediterranean. Great to have this connection. And there's Robert. See, you made it today, Robert. Sorry you missed last time, but remember this is unplanned, unscheduled. Just walk in here and it's anybody's guess. but Robert's a frequent commenter and viewer. It's always nice to see the same people over and over. Yeah, how did you find me? Are you a regular subscriber to my channel? Did you get an alert? Or were you just randomly surfing YouTube and saw a live feed for Beginning with Bees? That would be interesting to know. So, a 40 minutes drive from Weaver Apiary. Next spring, should I buy package nuke or get a cheaper package and get the Weaver Queen? If you, Walter Heigl, if you're just 40 minutes from the Bee Weaver Apiaries, I would drive myself right over there and visit with those people. I would definitely pick up my packages in person. Absolutely, that'd be the best. If I was 40 minutes from the Weaver family, I'd be over there. I'd be talking to Laura Weaver. We'd be having coffee and talking about the genetic line that they're working with. Plus, you have lessons over there too. I don't know if you knew that, but the Weaver family teaches bee management. So, Robert, I got an alert. I'm a subscriber. Yeah, Robert, I know you subscribe. And somebody else, William Gregory, received an alert. That's kind of cool. I wonder how many of you are here because you were just surfing and it showed up. Yank Doodle. I got 4 of the flow hives this spring. How did those work out for you this year? Now, I'd be curious to know. Jeremy Adams, I left a message on your last live video a bit ago. I was wondering if you know of any programs that can help me get funded for flow hives. I want to get started, but need help getting started. Jeremy Adams, get funded for flow hives. You could crowdsource it. I don't know what to say about that. I do know this. Some people bought flow hives when they first came out, left them in their boxes, and when they opened them up and realized how complicated it was to put together, I've put together every flow hive that there is, and I need to set aside hours to put together a flow hive. In fact, I might be doing one of those this afternoon. And they end up selling them, still in the box, never opened. So you might want to look at discounted flow hives from people that decided not to use them. But as far as getting funding for it, I don't know. That's anyone's guess. I have to pay for mine. And I think even my first Flow Super was like $460. It's a big investment. So I don't know what to say. If you want to get started just with a Flow Super, I recommend buying just a Flow Super and then getting a standard Langstroth from Man Lake, Better Bee, Daydaunt, one of the other suppliers. Get your box going, get your bottom board, brood box going, medium super. Then once your bees are working out great, then make the investment probably for that Flow Super. They are not lowering the prices on those, by the way. They're still strong. One Love says, I'm buying 4 flow hives. Bankruptcy is next, bud. Okay. Don't bankrupt yourself over flow hives. I mean, the price, they're steep. If you're tight on money, don't buy one. Get a standard beehive Langstroth box, 10 frame or 8 frame, whatever's working great in your area. By the way, where I live, the 8 frames are coming through winter just as well as the 10 frame hive box designs. So, Yank Doodle, I think mine are a generic brand. Nothing wrong with that. By the way, if we're talking about generic brand flow hives, watch out for the ripoffs. There are so many companies reproducing and copying that design. When it comes to the physical boxes, it's probably not a problem, but when it comes to the flow frames themselves, watch out. Those companies, you have no idea what that material is made out of, and there's no accountability. I contact them, they don't answer my questions. What? Mark Sipes. Okay, here's the thing. This is a chat where somebody can actually spend money. Mark Sipes just paid $20. I'm your friend for a day, Mark. I'll wave at you in public and everything. $20, that's the biggest amount of money anybody's ever just shot my way. Thank you, thank you. William Gregory, copies on eBay. Yeah, eBay, conduit for ripoffs everywhere. I think the flow designers are in constant conflict and trying to get their patent protected, which is not as easy in today's market because the copy violations are showing up everywhere. I recommend not buying one. Yank Doodle, I only paid $200 a set for 2 supers, high complete sets. Okay, I have no idea where you could get those. If you have a link for legit, real flow hive components and they're discounted, you can put that down in the video description after we're done with today's chat and let people go check them out. If it is not coming from the Flow, Honey Flow beekeepers.com. If it's not coming from those people direct, I'll put a link underneath this video in the comments and show you where the legitimate flow hives can be purchased. I don't trust the plastics and the others. I'm just going to be honest. If they're ripping off a patent, I don't trust the company. I don't trust the material. Fred Ronstadt, should I be worried if I see wax moth adults and larvae on the bottom board, or does it show that the bees are taking care of them themselves? I've not seen any damage on the combs. If you're not seeing the web and stuff, it's very rare to see adult wax moths on the bottom board. You might see the larvae, and the larvae should be very immature. Should be the really tiny stuff, because they can get started in the comb, but once they get larger and start to move out and the colony is full, the bees are going to get those right out of there. So I would check all of my frames to make sure there's no webbing going on there, and make sure colony strength is big enough and that there are enough bees to manage the space that you've provided. I would be vigilant. I don't normally see those because the bees would be flying out the dead larvae from the wax moths. And if you see adult wax moths, I would be very concerned about that. Neil Melush, hello again from England. I bought the Flow Hive 2. Had a big problem with honey dripping into the hive. Do you get this problem? I'm glad you brought that up, Neil, because yes, I got that problem. Particularly the first year in the first cycling of those Flow Supers. Those of you who don't know that are watching right now, I do a lot of testing of materials. I have a background in engineering analytics, and I look for flaws, defects in design, and in-service wear and degradation. That's what my background is. So I looked at the flow hive mechanism the first time it came around. I cycled all 7 frames at one time, which is something you should not do. We all know partial cycling, half the frame at a time, and let it drip. The honey did overwhelm the mechanism, and it did follow down the surface of the flow frames. Wish I had one out right now to show you. Anyway, and it did drive the bees right out first cycling, but I put it on a maximum flow. The new Flow Hive 2, of course, has a tray in the bottom, thank goodness. Any excess honey drips through that aluminum bottom grid, and it goes into the frame, and you can reclaim it. So clean your flow trays in the Flow Hive 2s before you do a honey cycling, and as you're extracting the honey, any drippings that get past the bees that go down into the tray, you can recover and feed back to the bees later. But yes, I had that problem first cycling. Second and third cycles, when the bees had sealed things up better, I had less honey. But even frames that have been used several times do leak, and you get as much as a quarter cup of honey from 3 cycled full frames, which is not a lot. If it's in a time frame when the bees can use it, they're going to catch most of that on its way down. But they do leak. Yeah. And they leak the most the first cycling. After that, you'll see less and less. And I always recommend make sure to tip your flow hive boxes back 2 degrees and make sure to have stuff to collect those drippings as they go. And there's some leaking. As I said, it gets less and less. And I did the max and leaked quite a bit the first time around. And I even reported that back to Flow Hive to see what was going on. So here we have Karen Cote. Hi, Karen. She's a frequent viewer. Check out Maloney's questions earlier above, please. What? Maloney's questions. Let me see if I can scroll up. Oh, I can. Maloney Cruz was only about 3 to 4 frames of bees. Should have been in 5 frame. Would that have been a reason for them to leave? Who left? Did you lose your bees? Maloney. Not that it really makes a difference, but any ideas on why a hive may abscond this time of year? Has just done OA treatment. Last treatment about 2 weeks before. Mite count was 1. By 1, I'm guessing you mean 1 per scoop per 200 bees. 2 weeks before, mite count, no hive beetles. If your bees abscond sometimes for no apparent reason, but there are other things you need to look at. So here's what I recommend for Maloney. If your bees have left a hive, that means the hive is empty. That's the difference between absconding and swarming. An absconding colony, they leave everything, the hive is there, the bees are gone. get the comb out of that hive and get the comb tested. There could be any number of reasons why the bees no longer found that colony habitable. Now, it also says that was only about 3 to 4 frames of bees, should have been in 5. 5 frame would have been a reason for them to leave. Sometimes a restricted space, but that doesn't drive them out this time of year. That restricts the numbers of bees that can occupy it. Look to see if it's honey bound. That's an area that you really want to check out. So save the comb, get samples of the comb, and find out if you had other things going on. You might have bacteria in there. You may have, unfortunately, a disease in the colony, in the hive itself, and we need those answers. So don't throw anything away. Get your hive evaluated. So let's go back down. So Karen says, thank you. You're welcome. That's what we're here for. And honey is healing, says Lillian Klein. Honey does have antibacterial properties to it, and honey can be put on even an open wound that's got dirt in the cut, and it will help heal the cut. That's true. Very good stuff. Hello, Frederick from Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. I'm guessing that. I don't know, but nice to see you here. Honey is healing. That's true. And hi, Fred from Canada. Great info. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome, Mac. Thanks for being here. And does anybody else have questions? Because if you don't, I don't have a watch on. It's 12:54. We're only going until 1 p.m. Then I have to get back to work. But thank you for those of you who joined. And a special thanks, of course, again to Mark Sipes for supporting me financially by clicking the little, there's a little money square down at the bottom, and that's a way to give somebody who's in a live chat a reward for chatting. Lutz, Frederick, blah, blah. Here's Robert again. Hey, Fred, could you go over about our, is the queen laying off your window? Hey, Fred, could you go over about, I don't understand the question, Robert. Is the queen laying off your window? I don't know. Oh, is the queen laying off for winter, like laying off laying? My queens, of course, I'm not going to look at those brood frames right now because we're all buttoned up. When you see my video opening on Friday, you're going to see everything is snowbound here. The queens, if not completely off lay by this time of year, have a very tiny brood pattern, and that allows those remaining bees to cluster over that as they go into their state of torpor, and they will preserve them. There will be some bees still hatching. If we get a break in the weather, of course, I'm going to pull open my observation hive, and I use them as an indicator for what the other bees in the other hives might be doing. But I found that my bee colonies never go completely broodless, but they do reduce brood, and they might be only hatching out 20 or 30 winter workers. So this time of year, the brood frames are very low in production, and the queen does go off lay because there's nothing coming in from the environment. And what's the number one thing they need to feed baby bees? They need pollen. So as the pollen gets consumed, they will go off lay completely. Next one, did the ham survive the last test? Here's the thing. This is from Anglesy, Andy. Okay, Andy, let me tell you something. If your wife or significant other tells you to prepare a ham for an evening dinner and you do an excellent job at that, that could be a backfiring situation. I recommend to anybody watching that if you get tasked to cook a ham and you don't want to be the cook, intentionally kind of mess it up. Not to where it's unpalatable, but don't make it so awesome that everybody wants you to do it again. Mine turned out awesome. I did raw honey. Of course, I put raw honey in it. I massaged it in between all the layers of the spiral cut ham, and it was awesome. Huge mistake. I don't want to prove that I have that ability. You want to not be stuck cooking anything. So make mistakes on purpose. Speak to text. It sucks. You bet it does, Robert. I don't talk to any of the text thing. This is my first season beekeeping. Amazing first year, but I had a horrible time with robbing. Any advice? Thanks, Fred. Yes, reduce those entrance reducers. Make them 1.5 inches long. And your bees, even a small colony, can defend that. If you've got a wide open entrance reducer, you've got the potential for robbing. Also, for those of you who like to feed outside or entrance feeders or on the hives in the apiary, Don't do that, especially when you enter a dearth, which is why you're feeding in the first place. Make sure your feeding stations, if you do any kind of feeding, is well away or well inside and contained, top box, so that robbing is reduced. The other thing is robbing screens. Just happen to have this robbing screen here from Bee Smart Design. If you see active robbing, put this on your beehive at night because all the bees are in, all the foragers are in. Then that closes it off, and your openings are through the top. So the resident bees will come out through here. Remember, robbers like to go directly in, get directly out. This will frustrate them. And this gets held on with push pins that are already provided. Bee Smart Designs robbing screen. These work. And then, of course, you can close off one side or the other. But of course, this is the point of egress for them. So the next morning, when the foragers go out, that our residents will come out through the top. This will cut down and stop robbing. Prevention is worth a pound of cure, as they say, ounce of prevention. Because once the robbing starts and there's thousands of honeybees on that landing board, it's terrible. So you want to read it, have them a reduced entrance, and leave it there. Protect them. Rick L., what should I do in the spring with a hive that has died because of a varroa explosion in late fall? I plan to replace the hive with a nuke next year. If you know for sure that they're dead because of varroa, they've already broken the cycle because they're dead. Varroa don't exist on dead bees. And also, when you're looking at the remnants, the dead bees from that hive, you'll see varroa still attached to them, and you can validate that. So if you know that varroa was the cause, clean them all out. Spray down all of the surfaces of those frames with 10% bleach and water solution. Let it dry off, and you can restore them to service. But get all the dead bees out, sanitize the hive. I recommend 10% bleach solution. Dry it off, and you're good to go. Pharmacy Seeds Network, no way. I caught it. What did you catch? Oh, caught the live feed? That's right. It's missed everyone so far. And William Gregory gives me a thumbs up. Right back at you, William. And Robert Mills, so in the winter, is it normal for the colony to decline a lot, being there are not replenishing as many bees? Yes, you want your colony numbers to be reduced in winter. Bees naturally do that on their own. People that provide a lot of artificial stimulants to feed the bees going into winter is kind of a mistake because that can cause the numbers to build. Larger numbers of bees in the colony during winter require more resources, and their likelihood of surviving may be less, but you do need enough bees so they can insulate one another and protect themselves from the cold in those cold regions, like where I live. So yeah, we want the numbers. In fact, I've had very tiny colonies survive winter just fine because they never exhausted all of their food resources. I will say that every colony that I've lost through the years has been due to starvation. They didn't die from the cold. They just starved out, and their heads were in the cells, and they had no more resources directly under them. So smaller numbers get through better if they're healthy. There's queen, the colony's healthy, and they have enough to cluster and protect one another from the cold. They're good to go. Maloney Crew is supposed to be freezing in North Florida tomorrow morning. I don't know what to say about that. Florida is not my area, but if you're having a freezing snap or a cold snap, your bees should get through that just fine. Just make sure they've got resources and they're closed up nice. Good evening from Bavaria, Germany. Beautiful area. Thank you for joining us. And Maloney Cruz, this is the first one I've caught too. Whoop whoop. Okay, Maloney, I'm glad you made it. I don't know why live chat is any better than just me doing a frequently asked questions on a Friday. I have my notepad here today in case I have stuff to carry over. But I'm glad you joined. I'm glad people like live chats. I'm actually a minute over the time I set for myself to shut this down. Karen here has colony growing in shrub with thin foliage above. Will they be okay against the rain in Florida? Can I cover it with palm fronds if needed? Are you talking about honeybees? If you have honeybees and they're in a shrub and they're exposed and they're building comb on that shrub, are you sure they're honeybees, Karen? How do you know? If they are, no, they're not going to be okay. They're exposed to everything. That's a colony that could not find a place to live. I recommend you call a beekeeper, get somebody to help you put them in a box. If they're honeybees, if there's some other kind of bee in the shrub, then that's a whole different thing. But if they're honeybees, they need to be saved and housed. They're not going to do well exposed. African honeybees, by the way, survive exposed. That's why they're so defensive. They can defend, and they're in an area that doesn't get a heavy winter, like I'm sure parts of Florida. Matthew Sibley sent me 5 pounds. Thank you, Matthew. I don't know what 5 pounds is in dollars, but I'll bet that's more than a cup of coffee costs, so I really appreciate it. I think it's a excellent endorsement when people vote with their pocketbook. Thank you for 5 pounds. Pharmacy Seeds Network, because we can see you react. You're a celebrity, Fred. Is that true? Am I some kind of celebrity? Legend in my own mind. Most popular man at the end of my driveway. Thank you for that. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to talk in real time. Karen says, yes. Bruce H. Could a cold and rainy here in middle Georgia today. You're not going to get any sympathy from me if you're in the southern states and you're suffering from a temporary cool down. You know, I was plowing over a foot of snow today and lost feeling in my hands trying to get videos for my people on Friday so that you could see how awesome the deep snow is and how quiet it was and how muffled the winter snow is. So when it gets a little cold or rainy somewhere else, don't expect me to feel bad for you. You guys are living in paradise. Bruce H. Cold and rainy here in middle Georgia. Karen, yes. I can build a box. Comb is growing. All right. So if you've got a box, Karen, get those babies hived in there. Look at how to put wooden frames together. And then when you cut away the comb on those tree branches, if they're building comb, use rubber bands to strap the comb to your wooden frames when you put them in the box. And the bees will remove the rubber band material later, and they'll go ahead and finish off the comb and attach it to those frames. So you've got a good deal there late in the year, but their chances are 0 on their own. So if you're willing to help them, way to go. Robert says he does. I do my beekeeping through you, Fred, since I'm so highly allergic to them, and it's sad because I have a perfect property for beehives. I have 1 acre. Sorry, Robert. Man, that's amazing that you watch all these bee videos and you're allergic to bees, so you're living vicariously through beekeepers. That's one of the huge bonuses of YouTube. You can see what other people are doing if it's something you can't do yourself. So Maloney Cruz, we all love you and appreciate it. Okay, I don't even know what to say to that stuff, so I'm just going to move on. But thank you for those of you who are coming here and you appreciate what I do. I don't even know what to say. Thank you for showing up. And one of the reasons I didn't move back to my home state of Colorado. Uh-oh, because it's cold? Karen, haha, snow angels. Snow angels. Anyway, Krish Swama, how does your observation hive stay warm in winter? It doesn't. Here's the thing about my observation hive. I have the 8-frame observation hive that's in pairs, 4 frames high, and it sits in a shed that's just shielded from winter wind. And other than that, it's an observation hive, and therefore it is exposed to the temperature extremes that everything else is. And I sandwich it with 1.5-inch thick pieces of polystyrene for the faces, which are the glass faces of the observation hive. And those bees have 6 solid frames of honey. So the bottom 2 frames are the brood frames, and the upper 6 frames are solid wall-to-wall chock-a-block capped honey. So through the year, they're going to cluster and they're going to move up through that, and they do just fine in there. It's kind of amazing. The point of an observation hive is, of course, to put it inside your house. And your house is warm, and then they just have an 1.5-inch tube that goes outside, and the bees come and go as they want to. Mine are out in a shed. So that's, other than sheltering from, you know, the wind and the rain and stuff like that, they're exposed to the temperatures and they make it, which is amazing. Okay, Fred, just a quick reminder. Matthew asked a question you didn't answer yet. Okay, let me find Matthew. You know, by the way, I won't be able to answer everybody's question. Let's find Matthew up here. Matthew Sibley, Fred, you have had experience with apami hives. Okay, here's the thing. Matthew Sibley asked this. every time there's a new hive that comes out, people pitch it to me and try to get me to use it. The ape of my hive, there's a member of my beekeeping association that has one right now, and I've asked him for feedback on it. I know a lot of people use them. I know that it is a plastic material throughout, and it's well insulated. It's insulated with polystyrene, and I have issues with polystyrene overall because you know what the decomposition rate of polystyrene is in a landfill over 500 years. When I'm using wooden boxes and things like that, or if the material is recyclable, polystyrene technically should be recyclable, but it's not where I live. Nobody recycles it. So I do some hypocritical stuff with that because I have some polystyrene covers for my beehives. They're insulated covers, but that's as far as I go. The ape of my hives, although they look like they're well insulated, they clasp together. They have lots of, additional equipment that goes along with them. I'm waiting for feedback from my friend, from my acquaintance in the bee club there. We'll see how his goes, but they're really not on my list, and it's just because of all the plastic and the lack of the ability to recycle them. The flow hives have plastic food grade frame material in them. When they've exceeded their life, I can take them all apart, and our recycling center does accept those plastics. So that's recyclable. I'm trying to stay away from all the polystyrene as much as possible. That's why I don't have personal experience with those, but there are a lot of people that do test them, and I think they're happy with them. So just not from me. Don says, glad you're the man at the end of my driveway. That's right. And Linda area pharmacy seeds, thank you. On the polystyrene, Fred, yes, that stuff needs to remain as limited as possible. Yeah, I mean, I want to recycle as much of the equipment that I get as possible. And I do understand that insulation is very appealing to people. And in extreme cold regions, you probably should do something to insulate thicker wood material and stuff, but it makes everything so difficult to manage. Polystyrene is lightweight, and that's why people go towards it. And inexpensive to manufacture, by the way. Matthew Wool is bee apiary, is listening, is testing them out and doing videos now. Okay, so Maloney Cruz says Matthew Wool is bee apiary, is testing them out and doing videos now. So you could go check that individual out and also ask what they plan to do at the end of the useful life of those beehives. How they're going to recycle material, or do they just not care that it will never degrade in the landfill? So hi, people, greeting from Poland. RAF, welcome all the way from Poland. That's a cool thing about YouTube. We're connected all over the globe. Woolly Bee Apiary on YouTube. Okay, Maloney Cruz. So check out those Ape of My Hives, Woolly Bee Apiary on YouTube. Thank you for that. And guess what? I'm at the end of my time. Thank you for all of you who are able to pop in here. And if you like these, here's Bruce H. Fred. How did you like the Better Bee comb? Did your queen lay in the combs? I used some of the Better Bee comb in several hives trying to open up brood space for my queens, but they never laid in them. I did a video on that. I did a follow-up on the Better Bee comb. In fact, if you look at that, I pull each frame and show you. The bees went right to work. The queens were laying in the comb. These are swarms. Those queens were laying in the comb in a matter of days. They used all of it. They reconnected the comb. They treated the comb as if they made it themselves. They repaired it. I had a Better Bee, which is Better Comb, which is also made by a company called Hexacell. Some of them, I tore one in half and put that together in there, and the bees mended that. And as I mentioned in the video, I didn't mark the one that I had intentionally damaged to see how they would manage it. They repaired it so well and so completely that I couldn't tell which comb I had damaged. So they adopted it. You need to know something else, though. That Hexacell comb, which is being marketed in the United States as Better Comb by Better Bee, people that are in the South that have been exposed to high heat, for example, and I think Dan Ski just chimed in here. You want to check out Dan, because I think, Dan, didn't you show some of that Hexacell comb that actually sagged from the heat? Because it does. So the people that are in the southern climates that get a lot of heat, some of that Better Comb has sagged. Here in the northern climate, so it's fantastic for my area. None of mine sag. They're functioning just like regular comb. The bees use it right away. Maloney Cruz says it melts. Okay, and Dan Ski again affirmed. He did a video. Check out Dan Ski's bees. He's right here in my live chat feed there. Dan showed you what happened when it gets really hot. So the other thing is, when you're starting off with that better comb, when you put it in a colony, sometimes you only put 3 or 4 frames in, especially if they're just starting out, because bees do control the climate inside the hive. So if it's a really hot day and they can keep that hive cool if it's not oversized for them, and they want to make sure, of course, they're going to limit the heat because they don't want to lose their brood. So high heat in a beehive, especially in the brood frames, which is what that comb's designed for, they'll control the heat. But if the combs extend beyond the cluster, beyond the bees and what they can manage, you're going to have sagging and drooping and high temperatures if those temperatures build inside the colonies. So southern climates, you want to watch them. So they actually recommend that you use just a few of those better comb frames, and then outboard of that, use your regular frames. But here where I live, all of mine are doing fantastic. I'm sold. I have boxes of that stuff out in my storage, and I'm going to be using, every time I get a swarm, that's what I'm starting with. They work fantastic for me, but I'm in the north. I mean, we had like 1 week where it hit the 90s, and the bees handle it fine. But hotter climates, better comb might not be for you. So the bees use a comb, but only seem to use them for resource storing. Bruce H. says that. Mine definitely laid eggs. They use them for brood. You may have different things in different climates. It'd be interesting to know, Bruce, what climate you're in. Walter Heigl, by the way, wish you would talk about your solar panels sometime. Walter Heigl, those of you that don't know, my entire house is solar powered. We have a 10 kW system, 42 panels. I did do a video on that. So you have to look through my video history, solar panels or whole house solar, Frederick Dunn. If you do that search, I think you'll find it. I talk about the company. I show the install. I show I'm on a net meter. So we actually backfeed the utility. And at the end of the year, the utility pays me because I'm actually they consider you a tiny energy plant. And utilities do not like people solar powering their entire homes. Obviously, they make no money off of you. And I've done a review of that. Solar power, fantastic. Cooking, dryer, everything in my house is running off electricity, solar generated, except I have a backup. I use wood for heating my house in wintertime. I have a wood stove, and we have propane as an emergency backup. So solar power works great. Hit the like button. Like Robert said, folks, hit the like button. What are we liking? The video overall? Somebody's going to give me a thumbs down. There's always one person that shows up, stays for 22 seconds, gives a thumbs down, and leaves. It might be somebody that I blocked a long time ago. I've done that. Okay, hello from Canada. Hello to Canada. Oh, yeah, Ray. Ray's a common commenter. Good to see you here. Agree about the solar from Karen. Solar's it. I always say, like, if I'm driving my golf cart somewhere, solar powered golf cart, because I charged it from my house, which is solar powered. Wood heat is so nice too, definitely, especially this time of year, sitting by a fire. That's the way to go. Ray and I thought you'd be a popsicle by now. Who's popsicle? I suit up. You should see how I suit up to go outside to make those videos just for you. I put myself in harm's way. Winter storm. I don't know if you guys saw this or if you watch any of my creative stuff, but I did a video of wild turkeys flying through a snowstorm last year. I was way out there for that sequence, and I almost couldn't take it anymore, but I saw so many turkeys, I had to stick it out. I did that for you guys. Hitting the like button helps. Promote your channel. Thanks, Robert. Subscribers, if you're watching and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. That helps. You know, 90% of my viewers are not subscribers. 90%. That's because channel-wide, I cover a lot of subjects. My channel gets over 400,000 views every 28 days. So the bee videos are actually a small percentage of that, but they're my favorite to do. Even thumbs down is engagement in YouTube's eyes. Yeah, it hurts my feelings so, Maloney. I run outside, I fall in a puddle, I take a selfie. Oh, wait, I don't have a cell phone, so I can't do that. Ow. All right. Anyway. This weekend was 30-ish. Today, -3. Big swings in temp here. Yeah, big swings. That's right. That's what we get here. All right, guys. That's it. That's it for today. I'm sorry to say goodbye. This was good. And since the quality, hopefully the quality continued decent throughout this one, what I did was I took my Mophie unit, which is my router, which also has a SIM card, which is my internet. I put suction cups on it and stuck it on a window. That's what I did. That's how I changed it. So that's it. Thank you for joining me today. Next time, I hope to give you some advance warning. Those of you who are not familiar with my channel that are just visiting now, I try to every Friday or Saturday do a frequently asked questions series about honeybees and beekeeping. The advantage to that over this live chat is that I'm going to show secondary video and be real and things like